Welcome to the Therapeutic Food Solutions podcast. I'm your host, Marian Mitchell. I'm an Integrative Nutrition Health Coach, therapeutic diet expert, and founder of The Road to Living Whole. There are many different diets out there. It's hard to know which one is right for you with your chronic illness and autoimmune disease. In this podcast, I'm going to share with you the foundational pieces every single therapeutic diet out there shares, and also how to use the best one for your particular diagnosis. If you've been looking for a meal planning partner, help navigating the complicated healthcare system, and want to feel better quickly, I'm your girl. Grab your kombucha and notebook. Let's dive in. Hey everyone, welcome back. I have a wonderful guest with us today, a fellow IIN grad and integrative nutrition coach. Her name is Maddison Sutton, and we are going to be talking about health outside of the physical. My foundation is really nutrition. That's what the doctors refer to me for, is to really help patients nail down the therapeutic diet and food. And Maddison also does food, but she does so much more than that. And I'm really looking forward to sharing her story and, her approach to health in the chronic illness world. I think you guys are going to learn a lot. So Maddison, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
So tell us your story. Where did you get your beginning and how did you end up where you are?
Yeah. So I definitely did not start out my career thinking I would be in the health and wellness space. But early into my 20s, I experienced autoimmunity through a loved one. It was somebody that I was dating at the time. And it was something that was so new to me. I had never even probably heard the word autoimmunity, I don't think, up until this situation. And that was such an eye-opening experience for me. I was always somebody that considered what they ate, and I really didn't consider lifestyle probably too much. I mean, I was in my early 20s. I was just being as reckless as the rest of us. But it was shocking to me how much that really halted our lives and did change our diet and our approach to how we could live day to day. So, after going through that experience and really running into a lot of roadblocks with Western medicine and really not getting answers that felt right or solutions that felt like they would be good long term, I did
Mhm.
a lot of investigating on my own. And that's really what led me into the holistic space today. That was sort of like my start of my holistic journey. And thankfully, with changes to diet, changes to lifestyle, we were able to really put that autoimmune condition into remission. So that was the start of my journey. And it really has just evolved for me since then. That was my early 20s. I'm 34 now. So it's been really nice just kind of as I've gone through different phases. I was in the corporate space for quite a while in a very high stress job. It was interesting being in that space and knowing, you need to eat well and you need to sleep well and you need to exercise, but still not seeing like the physical results that I wanted to, or dealing with things like insomnia or anxiety, and trying to work through my own journey of like, if I'm doing all the physical things right, like, why am I still not necessarily feeling my best physically? So I did a lot of the same things that you did. I did IIN and really tried to educate myself. I ultimately ended up leaving the corporate space when my father was diagnosed with cancer. So after my dad was diagnosed with cancer, I saw him experiencing a lot of the same things that I went through, my partner and I had gone through when he was dealing with his autoimmune condition. And that was just sort of the last straw for me. I knew I was experiencing my own health issues due to stress, or what I had determined was stress. I was seeing what he was experiencing, and I decided I wanted to make my passion something bigger and help women in the corporate space really at all ages, when we're talking about just prevention, fertility, all the way up to post menopause, and really be there for them as they go on their health journey as well.
That's quite the journey. Actually, pretty similar to mine. Mine was my own health problems and autoimmune, but then my dad was diagnosed with a deadly autoimmune disease, recurring polychondritis. And most of the time, when they're diagnosed, they're dead in 10 years. And I was like, that's not happening. The rheumatologist say, some people see benefit from going gluten-free. That ended up not being his problem. It ended up being a different set of foods, chemicals and foods. But anyways,
Hear that.
it's
That's
been more than
amazing.
10 years and he's alive and well. So tell us about your current mission and what do you find the most valuable for your clients in helping them through this, especially with the chronic illness, autoimmune disease that
Yeah.
women are so prevalent to
I think
get.
I have maybe two missions. I really believe that your health is your power. I think being somebody that has had their health taken away, like you understand that firsthand and you see it all the time. If you don't have your health, you do not have anything. And when a loved one is sick, like I'm sure you experience this with your dad, like the stress that puts on you as his daughter and as his loved one. I mean, being sick doesn't just impact you, it impacts all of those that love you. And so I would
Mm,
say one of my missions is really about like teaching people to take care of their health like they take care of their finances. Right out. I mean, we should be learning this stuff when we are young, how important and how in control of your health you actually
yeah,
are. And on top of that, really the other thing I'm so passionate about is health is so multifaceted. There are so many aspects of health, and we give a lot of attention to physical health, but there is so much science being put into the mental, emotional, and spiritual side of health. And for me personally, I knew how to do all the physical things right. I knew how to eat right. I knew what I was supposed to be doing from like water and exercise, but I still was having all of these issues. And it really wasn't until, honestly, until my dad passed. And I actually gave myself that space to care for my mental, emotional, spiritual health that I started seeing like not just positive health outcomes, but like positive life outcomes.
that's amazing. I'm so sorry that he passed. So walk us through how to do that when we cannot slow down. There are so many times that we have to keep working. We have kids that we're still raising. We don't have the space to be able to just kind of really go to a screeching halt and pour because I one of the things I hear a lot from people is just they wish they could just go to an island for 6 months and just focus on everything they need to do for their health and then come back to the world as if that would be some magic potion, like some magic combination that would fix all of their problems. And you and I both know that that's not the case. That, yes, it might be beneficial, but you would come back and go right back into the old habits and all of the old ways of doing things. So, walk us through the process of making space for that mental, emotional side while still
Yeah.
living our lives.
So I will say I somewhat had that opportunity to go to that island, once it was just such interesting timing. I decided to leave the corporate space, not knowing my father was going to pass so suddenly. And my last day at my corporate job, my stepmom called me and was like, you need to come home. And he ended up passing 5 days later. And even though I was
Mm,
obviously devastated because of the timing of leaving my corporate job, and of course, I had like these grand plans of like coaching and starting, my own, business, but it ended up resulting in me probably not working for like 6 to 8 months. I mean, I did like little things here and there, but I really wasn't working. So, as somebody that had that opportunity, I will say it was extremely beneficial. But, when it came time, like, okay, Madison, you got to actually start this business. Like, you need to start making money again. I had so much anxiety about having to go back into the professional world. and being on a strict schedule and trying to build a business and all of the financial stress that comes with that, and like actually generating leads and all of those things. And what I learned from that process was I had to kind of create my own non-negotiables. Like, even though I did have that space, just like you said, you come back to it and like all of that goes out the window. And so I was like, how do I keep my peace? Like, I've had this horrible thing happen, but out of it came a really amazing opportunity to learn what I actually need as far as peace. And what I really learned was, sleep for me is probably my number one most critical thing. So even though I was going back into the workforce, how do I make sure that sleep, my number one thing that I need for mental, physical, and emotional health, how do I make sure that that is still intact? And it was about putting in those practices. It was also about setting the boundary that, I can't do certain things in the morning. Like, I need my time to meditate and journal. Those are non-negotiables for me above, exercise or going on a walk. It's, even though those things are important, like my true non-negotiables were taking that time in the morning to meditate and journal. So how can I change my schedule, or how can I make this new schedule or my busy schedule work and put in those non-negotiables? So I think it's maybe just figuring out, like, what are your top three things? And if you can't get three in, what is your number one thing? For me, it's sleep. Then I was able to add in meditation and journaling in the morning. Like, figure out your top non-negotiables and figure out how you can work those into your life, even if it's just one thing at a time.
I absolutely love that. That's tangible. I find, so I'm a mom, I have 4 kids, and it's very easy to get lost in the hustle and bustle of keeping them on their schedules and all of that. And sometimes it's really hard to even figure out what you need because you need so much. Like, I don't have that so much now, but when my older two were really little and I was a single mom, I couldn't tell you what I liked, what I didn't like, what my hobbies were because I didn't have any. You know, and I really just I really got lost. I was also building my business while working and raising the 2 kids by myself. I was burning the candle at both ends for sure. Then I had a major health crash, adrenal fatigue, and all of that. And I had to step back and breathe. And I spent a month with my parents in California, and they helped so much with the kids. And I was interpreting, and so I had to take like the bus an hour each way. So I got all this time to just really not only work and do things that I needed to do, but also have this time to kind of reflect on that. And so I do think that while not everybody gets the ability to go to the island, so to speak, there is an opportunity to ask for help and to give yourself space to sit back and figure out what it is. And in mine was like a big long laundry list because I just didn't have anything, right? But it was picking one, and didn't really have the ability to sleep because, young kids don't sleep, but it was asking for help and really depending on my friends because I didn't have any family around at that time. And so it was like, hey guys, like, I'm drowning, I'm dying. I I need like actual physical help, not just emotional help. And so my friends just started showing up randomly, looking around and go, I'll help with this. And I'll help with this. And it was, I mean, I had 7 friends that would just randomly show up when they knew I was home. And it still brings tears to my eyes, but it was absolutely incredible. And from them helping me just kind of get caught up and then stay on top of things, I was then able to breathe and start building in the routines and stuff, and making sure my kids knew to respect those routines, which I think a lot of parents struggle with, is they kind of let the kids dictate everything. And when they're, I have a 1.5-year-old, she doesn't listen to, it's all about her all the time, right? But there's still boundaries that you can put in place to protect yourself and help that you can ask for. And so for me, that was like a huge one, was just like letting the people who love
Yeah.
me know that I needed help.
Yeah. I think that that's so critical. Just being able to realize that like it's okay to need help. And I think as women, we really struggle with that because we want to be able to do everything. It's just the way our minds work. We come from a very good
Hmm.
place with that. But, and sometimes it's easy for me as like a friend looking at some of my friends' lives who, I know their lives are maybe a little bit more hectic than mine are. They have, kids, their husband works odd hours or whatever. It's easy for me from the outside to almost blame their husband and be like, why is he not helping you? Why isn't he stepping up? And in some situations, like the partner really does need to step up. But I've also found that most of the time women are also not asking for help. And it really takes both. Like, I really believe so many partners and family and friends are so willing to help. But I think as women, it's really hard for us to ask for that help. And to your point, sometimes we don't even know what we need help with.
Yeah, absolutely. And we don't know what it is, quote
Mhm.
unquote, okay to ask for. Like even with our partner, like we see them working hard. I mean, I'm married now, going on 2 years, and I mean, I'm 40. I'm pretty vocal in what I need, but it was those 14 years of being a single mom and really having to, oh, humble myself enough to like, yeah, I'm drowning. I can't keep up on my 600 square foot apartment with two young kids. It's a mess all the time. And I can't always do the dishes and like to allow them into that space, that messy space, and for them to give them room to do things their way and just have that help. I think it's a lot of pride and relinquishing control. And that's really hard. And I do think that it's just a response to trauma, but also we feel like we should be able to do it all. And if our men are working 10, 12-hour days, my husband's gone from like 7:15 to 6 o'clock very regularly. He comes home and he's a VP of a company and everybody leans on him and he doesn't get a chance to think all day. So when he comes home, he wants to sit and I'm like, but there's dishes and there's toys. And he is very good about spending time with the kids. He definitely will take them on and I can hide away for 10 minutes and just kind of breathe. But it's like, then I'm still just like, well, I need this. And I'm pretty vocal about it now, but it took a
Yeah.
lot of practice. And, I see a lot of these videos of like weaponized incompetence and things like that. And honestly, I'm like, why are you not reaching out
Yeah.
to your mother-in-law? Um, because if my son did that, oh boy, not
Yeah.
only would I be there helping, but I would be teaching him again, because I'm my entire life, how to clean, how to vacuum, how to notice trash, types of things. But I would say, I even think that that's overdone. I think a lot of women just don't ask for help, but then also don't
Yeah.
relinquish control of the help that they get. I think that it's a learning process for our partners too. Like they might fold the towels wrong and then they don't fit in the linen closet. Okay, well, maybe they need to, if they're like, hey, there's no room for these towels, they'll be like, well, I found if I fold it this way, they fit. And they might roll your eyes and stuff, but they're going to get tired of like have trying to shove stuff in there too, right? We don't give like we feel like they should just know, but I know for a fact like my husband's an expert at folding towels and I am not. So I just have less towels so they fit. But he can fit like 30 towels on a shelf, right? And it drives him nuts. And I'm like, I try folding them your way and they're just 3 inches
Yeah.
thicker. I don't know what I'm doing. Right. And so we kind of have found our strengths and our weaknesses and balance each other out. But it's that willingness to do that. And I think that that's what we as women really, really struggle with is just being willing to relinquish control and to
Yeah.
let things be good enough. I think that's really hard, even within ourselves, let alone in our homes and in our workplaces. I feel like I'm not a perfectionist. I'm just one of those that let's get moving, let's get some traction, and we'll perfect it along the way. But so many women, I find that I'm the minority. So many women more like everything has to be perfect right now before anything can get done. And I'm like, okay, that's just self-sabotage for yourself and for everybody around you. You gotta get over that. Do you find that true for your clients as well?
Absolutely. Very much perfectionist. I'm kind of in the same bucket as you. I am also not a perfectionist, but I found when it came to starting my business, I was. So like there are still certain areas of my life where I cannot if it's not perfect, oh my gosh, like I just can't. Um and I think a lot of women don't even realize it. They're like, "Oh, I'm laid back in this
Mm-mm.
area, maybe." But I think, again, kind of going to your example about the towels, it's like, okay, you're not a perfectionist, but you refuse to ask your husband for help because you're worried you're going to have to explain it or he's going to do it wrong. So you choose to do it instead of just letting him do it. And yeah, he might do it wrong like one time, but that's how you learn. And then, the next time it won't be wrong. Like that is perfectionist. Like that is you being a perfectionist. You'd rather do it yourself and make sure it's done perfectly, then get the support that you need. Um, so I think it's also picking your battles in that example. I babysat my nephews this weekend, and my sister texted me last night, and she said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I realized my car was such a mess." I'm like, "Are you serious?" You have a full-time job like where you're going to job sites every day. You have two boys under the age of 3. Who cares what your car looks like? Like, do you actually think I care what your car looks like? Um, so, you know,
All that undue
yeah, we
stress we
put
put
so
on
much.
ourselves of having to be, and I feel like social media contributes to that a lot because you see these women with 4 kids in these beautifully decorated homes and everything's curated, but you don't see the mess that's on the counter behind them. Like when I used to like do food photography and cooking videos and stuff, they never saw the mess that was on the dining room table on the other side of the kitchen, on the other side of the camera, right? Because there's stuff that you live in. And I feel like social media in that way has also fueled this inadequacy in women, and then there's people that just have different strengths than us. Like I have a friend who is an amazing decorator and she dresses impeccably, but she also struggles a lot with stress and the stress that comes from control and needing everything to be perfect all the time. And that's to her detriment as well, right? Like she's impeccable taste and she's beautiful and all this stuff, but it's like we all have our stuff that we don't see, that people don't see on the backside where we
Yeah.
need support. Women are, what was it, 3 times more likely to have autoimmune disease. Not that men don't get them, but we're just so much more likely. And a lot of it is because we just don't ever give ourselves room to breathe. You ever notice how men don't ask permission to take showers or to go golfing or to go out with their friends? They're just
Mhm.
like, hey, I'm doing this. We don't do that. And we train those around us to expect us not to. And then when we decide to change, there's a lot of tension because it disrupts the norm. Talking about prevention, this is one of the things I'm teaching my daughters is like, and my husband's so wonderful about it because I asked, like, he's never once told me no to, like, I want to go out to dinner with friends or anything like that. But I've had partners that were like, no, who's going to watch the kids? I'm like,
Yeah.
they're yours. It's not babysitting when they're your DNA. It's called parenting, right? And I think that we don't allow our partners to be parents because they're different. Also, again, going back to that perfectionist. Now, I will say a lot of men don't feed their kids meals. That's something they do when they become single dads. They kind of figure it out. Wouldn't it be better if they figured it out and guys could still be together, right? But like women are like, well, he doesn't do it right, so I'm going to do it. I'm like, it's okay if they eat mac and cheese 3 nights in a row because you're on a business trip. Is it ideal? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
But they're fed.
They're happy, they're fed, like it's okay.
And then when you're home, there's no mac and cheese for several weeks so that they can get their protein and vegetables, right? My husband is a very healthy, but he can cook, but that's not something he wants to spend 30 minutes doing every single night. I enjoy it. It makes me happy. And one day I'll get back to creating meals again. I mean, I have over 300 recipes, so I feel pretty content with what I have to offer people and myself. But, at the end of the day, it's like, again, strengths. He comes home and he gets to play with the babies and give me a break while I get to do what I love, which is cooking in the kitchen and the smell of the food and the textures and the colors. And I think a lot of people aren't willing to accept that there's a give and take. They want it all. And that's just not possible for any one human
Yeah.
to do.
I think I mean, there's so much good stuff that you said there. I think the wanting it all is one of the number one reasons that we're seeing chronic health conditions and autoimmunity, and social media is fueling this fire. I mean, it was already going this route, and then social media has just made this significantly worse. And yes, women, I think it's like 80% of autoimmune conditions are women. And women struggle from insomnia more than men. Women struggle with burnout and stress related issues more than men. Women struggle with chronic health conditions more than men. And it's because, we are in this place right now as women where we're trying to be in the corporate space or, run our own businesses, but we have not relinquished any of the control of running the house, being the mom, being the wife. Like we are still the
Right.
mothers, wives, that housekeepers that our
Housekeepers,
grandmas
schedulers.
were, or our great grandmas that did not have jobs. But we're also doing all of this as well. And it's just too much. And, there's one of my clients right now, she goes to like at least one networking event every week. And I'm like, first of all, that's my absolute nightmare. I would never do that. But you never like these. Like you're only going to show your face and I don't know, look good to your boss. It's like, why? Like we are doing all these things that we think we are supposed to do that bring us absolutely no joy, that we feel completely drained after. And I mean, it sounds like you kind of made a list when you were going through the worst of it. Like, these are all the things I need help with. We need to be making lists of like, does this fulfill me? Is this really beneficial in my life? If it's not, cut it out. And that can be a person, an
Yeah.
activity, a business related thing. For me, it was raising my hand at work for every single project. Not sure why I thought I like really thought I had to raise my hand for everything. Truly not sure why. I was the only woman on my team. There was 10 other people. Like, why did I feel it was my responsibility to always raise my hand? Um, Stop raising your hand. Like it is okay to not raise your hand. Really, I have very much embraced with my business like the that law of least effort, and it's actually made things go so much more smoothly because every client and like thing I am actually engaging in now feels so much more aligned, and I can put so much more of like my heart and soul into it. And because of that, the results are tenfold, and I just think it's
Yeah.
really hard for a lot of people because it's a risk and it sounds a little bit scary to try and actually do less because we think things are going to fall apart, but they actually won't.
Yes, absolutely. I actually love networking, but I got to a point where I was doing so much of it, I was exhausted and I wasn't seeing the return on investment. And so I had to take a step back and go, what is going to be worth my time and investment? Okay, I want to partner with naturopathic doctors for their patients. Like, how do I do that? That path was so much easier and less effort and much greater ROI than running on the hamster wheel. And I think we feel like we're running on a hamster wheel because we are, as you said. And I do think that while we may not be able to put our complete lives on hold, we can say no to everything for
Yeah.
4 weeks outside of family, home, and if we have to work and paying the bills. We can say no and give ourselves one, just a chance to have a break, read some books, do the hiking or the dancing or whatever it is that we really enjoy that we don't have time for. And through that mental space, your brain gives you clarity. And it's really scary. I find as a mom, summers are best time for this. I don't feel the need to entertain my kids all the time. And I think they're perfectly okay staying home and drawing pictures and things like that. During the school year when there's sports and stuff, it's a lot more difficult. But at this, no matter what point, if you're at your breaking point, just say no to everything for a month and give yourself some space. And I highly do recommend having a coach to help you through that, just because not everybody has someone in their circle that they can just talk through. Like I'm an external processor, so I need to talk through things and I'm not always going to make sense. And sometimes I'm like, that's a really stupid idea. And they're like, yeah, I agree, but they didn't say it, right? They're just letting me process out loud, and having the space to do that can be your going on an island. It's really scary because you're like, oh my God, the world's going to fall apart. I'm sorry, you're
Yeah.
not that special.
Yeah.
Your kids and your family need you, and
Yeah.
that's about it. Everything else can be pared down. Your friends will still love you on the other side. Your family will still be there on the other side. It's okay to say no
Yeah.
to everything.
I really like that. I love because I think I have one client in mind who, is doing a lot of the physical things right, but they know that they're a yes person. Like, yes, 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 yes. Yeah,
Us
just
people pleasers,
people
man.
pleaser. And you know what? It's so beautiful because her heart is in such a beautiful place. She wants to be there for people that she cares about, but it's showing up. Like it is physically showing up in her body that she's done this her entire life. And now she's at a point where she's trying to get pregnant and she's really struggling. These these things they show up. Um and it's really
Yeah,
hard, but I love that just saying no to things for a month because I mean, that's a long enough time to like really see how beneficial that is for you physically. It's, digestible enough to where it doesn't feel like somebody's going to push back too heavily on it. My version of that is don't make commitments during the week. Now, with kids and games and practice and stuff, that's hard, but maybe not making commitments for yourself. Like I know, typically I have a standing thing that I'll do with my girlfriends. And when my dad passed and I was grieving, and I was trying to start my business, I didn't have the physical, like, I just didn't have the mental capacity. I was really kind of, I don't want to say the word
hmm
depressed, but I was in a space where I'm very introverted. So, like, I very much needed to recharge by being by myself. I found that I would commit to things and then the day would come and I'm like, I don't have the energy to show up for this today. So I would bail out last minute and I would feel bad. And I just felt super flaky during that time. But that taught me, you know what? I've got a lot going on right now. Maybe I'm not going to make these future commitments. I know my girlfriends are getting together for wine night this week. I'll let them know on the day of. Like, I will be there if I can be there. And that's okay with me. And moving forward, that's what I'm doing. And they just know like they'll hear from me on the day of. And most of the time I can be there because I am allowing that space for myself.
that's wonderful. And with working with high achieving women, that has got to be empowering for them, because I do find high achievers give a lot of themselves to others. And giving back to ourselves in a way that's tangible and doable while still doing what we need to do is really, really difficult. I hate feeling like a flake also, right? I'm more of an extrovert, so being around people energizes me, but somehow all of my friends are introverts. It's probably because I like you, you're my friend now. And they're like the introverts and I like pick them, right? And they're the ones that like need a lot of that time. And so they let me know the day of.
Yeah.
And so as a planner, that was really hard for me in my younger years. And now that I'm older, I'm like, that's fine. I got
Yeah.
other stuff I can do. Like it doesn't ruin my day. It doesn't stop my plans if there's others involved. They're welcome if they can make it. And that freedom is so powerful, right? So, along with this freedom, what are some other strategies that you have for these high achieving women to prevent disease, or if they're in the thick of it, to help move, and they've nailed down the diet, they've nailed down the exercise, they've nailed down all that stuff. What are some other things that they can focus on that have a good ROI on the investment, so to
I
speak?
find that a lot of times with the higher achieving women, stress and also this is probably just speaking to like my personal journey with insomnia. I really like to make sure that they're getting the rest that their body needs because I mean burnout, it can come in many forms, but a lot of women are just not getting the physical rest that they need. So I really do try, and I feel like this is like such a popular thing, but I really do believe in like the nighttime routine and the morning routine because those are such good
Hmm.
times to build in that care for yourself. Nighttime, oftentimes the kids are asleep, like you have a few minutes. I'm a big believer in putting away the phone, putting away the electronics. I believe in putting away your phone when you start making dinner. And for me, that's at like 6. And so that's what, like, 3.5 hours, I don't have my phone before bed. And it's so rejuvenating to not have a screen that you're looking at and to really be like putting your full attention into caring for yourself during those last 3 hours of the day. So for me, a lot of women, when they come to me, they don't have the diet and exercise down. So that is obviously the first step, but making sure that they actually get the rest that they need and consistent rest and that they are blocking at least an hour for themselves at night. I know mornings are a little bit harder, it's depending on the age of your children, but trying to, even if it's getting up 20 minutes earlier, just to do a little bit of breathing. I'm a big believer in pranayama. I think it's a really amazing, just breathing exercise. It's easy to do. There's tons of like YouTube videos on how to do it right. It's like super accessible, free. So yeah, just putting in some breathing exercises in the morning and making sure you have like a really firm hour for yourself in the evening. Yeah.
I feel like that's really doable for a lot of people. I mean, I'm like thinking about my nighttime routine, and I would say it's at least 30 minutes of like just like brushing my teeth and brushing my hair, sitting down and journaling and reading my Bible and all of that. Mornings are not
Yeah.
like I have an 18-month-old. I get no time alone. But what I have learned, especially now that it's cooling off though, is Addie and I wake up and we let the dog out and we take her outside and we kind of wander around out there. So we're getting 5, 10 minutes of morning sunlight and fresh air and green grass. And
Yeah.
that's rejuvenating to us both. And then, I'm starting to read again in the evenings. And so after Addie's in bed with the older kids, I can just read. Or sometimes my daughter's like, Mom, paint my nails. But we get to talk, right? But then if that time is taken up with my other kids, I still need more time. Because if I don't, I found that I start getting that burnt out, kind of like get irritated easier and agitated and like my stress capacity is so much lower. Like that rest and that time alone is truly so vital. I'm going to absolutely second that. And
Yeah.
sometimes that's what we need even more than the food and stuff first. If we're sleep deprived, we're hungrier. Our blood sugar is dysregulated, so we're craving sweets. We're agitated, our stress, if we can't handle stress, all of that. So I would almost say that's even more important than nutrition because if you're not rested, you don't have the capacity for the change required of
Yeah.
changing your
I mean,
diet.
sleep non-specifically heals all things. It is the easiest way to
Yeah.
heal. And I say easy, kind of lightly, because again, some people really struggle with sleep.
Yeah. Well, there's hormone issues. If you have low progesterone, you're not sleeping, low testosterone, you're not sleeping. Like there's all kinds of things that can go into that. But
Yeah.
also, a lot of times we are on our phones with the blue light. I found when I was going through my hardest time, if I fell asleep between 8:30 and 9:30, I slept all night. If I fell asleep after 9:30, I was waking up all night. So I was like, oh, I actually have to go to bed earlier so that I can sleep all night. I don't know what it was that did that, but it did the trick. And so then I started talking to my clients about it and they started trying it and it worked for them too. And it was like, I almost feel like insomnia could be that we force ourselves to stay up too
Yeah.
late, that we get an adrenaline rush. And coming down from that is really difficult. It takes hours, right? So if you're up at 10:30, and you're getting a second wind, well, that's your body pumping out adrenaline because you're forcing yourself awake and your body's like, well, there must be a
Yeah.
reason. So then you're not tired till 1 a.m.
Yeah.
Not that that's the only reason. Obviously, it's multifaceted, but that was what I found. Even like I was on all the things. I was on testosterone and adrenal support and all of that. But I was like, oh, I have to go to bed between 8:30 and 9, really.
Yeah. I love that. And I think you can feel that when you have that wind down routine at night. Because I completely agree. And I actually had a friend that told me
Hmm.
this really when I was still struggling with my sleep because she was having the same issue. And she was like, I get in bed and read. And when I feel that I'm tired, I put that book down immediately and I try to go to sleep. She was like, if I try to push through that and I'm like, oh, I want to finish a few more chapters or whatever, that is when I think you're right. It's just that boost of adrenaline, like the cortisol spikes, and it kind of disrupts us. But when you're going, and you're watching TV and you're not paying attention to those like body cues that, hey, I'm feeling tired and like it's time to wind down, it's a little bit harder to, you just don't feel that. And so you may be boosting that cortisol or that adrenaline without even knowing it.
Hmm. Yeah. And then a lot of times I'm like movie watchers, they get really into the movies, right? And so that gets all kinds of things going and
Yeah.
you're not allowing yourself to get tired at all, to even feel it because you're just going, going, going. Yeah, sometimes I think technology could be
Absolutely.
our
Yeah.
demise. That's that's like so tempting to go like live off the grid, no TV, no phone, candlelight, type of thing. Not that I mean that's like the dream,
Yes.
but I like my 2-day Amazon delivery and dishwasher. But at the end of the day, that's so powerful. And I think that that is such a strong place to start. As we're wrapping up, is there anything that you want to really emphasize for people, especially women who are want to prevent it or are going through,
Yeah.
a health
I
crisis?
think, you know, one of the biggest things that I really want to get across is like find wellness that works for you. We talked a lot about social media and perfectionism. And as women, we are trying to make sure we go to the gym and eat a certain way and like do all of the things that will help us stay young and beautiful and like the size that we want, and never age or whatever for the rest of our lives. Like we're trying to do all the things that influencers are telling us to do. But guess what? Everybody is very different. Like no one thing works for everybody. And really, that is not good for your mental emotional health to try to fit yourself into that influencer's box or what you're seeing on social media. So find really
Mhm.
simple things that like actually feel good for you and lean into those. And know that health is very much an evolution. Like it took me 15 years to get from only caring about what I put in my body to also caring about what I was consuming as far as like social media and TV and people around me. So be okay with like the journey and do what feels good for you.
Awesome. If people want to connect with you, where do they find you?
The best place to find me is either on, we just talked about social media. So my Instagram, but really it's my website. wellwithmadison.com. That's the best place to find me. You can schedule time or a free consultation with me, and all of my information is there.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for joining me today and having this wonderful conversation. I love our shared mission and how I love that we each have our space, that we can come together and have talks like this. And I just really appreciate your time.
Thank you. I appreciate yours as well.
Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. If you found this episode helpful, would you do me a favor and help others find it by leaving a review, sharing a screenshot on social media, or sharing the link with a friend? By you sharing what you've learned, others are able to find this podcast and join our community. Be sure to check out my website, www.roadtolivingwhole.com, for over 160 delicious recipes, a variety of meal plans, and a blog packed full of even more healthy living tips. If you'd like to learn more about how to work with me as your coach, you can schedule a free consult through www.roadtolivingwhole.com/health-coaching/. Until next time, friend. Bye.